In a previous video, I showed you how you can program Arduino in BASIC using GCBASIC, and that video was really popular. So in today's episode, I'm going to show you how to control a low-cost LCD display from Arduino using built-in commands in GCBASIC. And I'll explain it all right here at Chuck Hollabuck's Electronic Products. Today's video is sponsored by PCBWay.com. Low-cost circuit boards, 10 boards for $5. And you can get standard PCB, you can get advanced PCBs, you can get flexible PCBs. Just upload your Gerber files and all the details that you want for the board, like solder mask, silkscreen, and they'll give you a quote. 10 boards for $5 plus shipping. In my case, about $27 to get 10 boards shipped to me. They also have CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and injection molding. So check out PCBWay.com. In a previous video, I did explain how you can program the Arduino module with basic language using the GCBASIC compiler. And someone commented, well, what about all the libraries that's available for Arduino? What do you do for that in GCBASIC? Well, GCBASIC has most of those libraries, or many of them, already built in as commands, such as controlling an LCD or an LCD module. Graphics modules, it's got that in there too. And what I wanted to show you is a few examples of how you can just control a character, like a 2x16 character LCD, for a lot of your projects, whether it's a module or a shield like this, or an individual that you're going to wire up, or a serial I2C version. All that is built into GCBASIC. But let's talk about what an LCD is for those that don't really know. A character LCD module can display numbers or characters or letters, and it does it in like 2x16 rows. So there's 2 rows of 16 characters, 4x20 characters. There's different sizes. And almost all of them have an Hitachi 44870 controller that controls the actual LCD and generates the characters that you want to display. As I mentioned, a 2x16 character LCD has 2 rows of 16 characters. And each character is created by a 5x8 pixel arrangement. So each character is just a bunch of dots. And that 44870 chip that controls the LCD has the character map built in, with each character having its own address. So you can determine which character you want to put at each block or each character on the LCD. For example, here's a hello world being displayed on the LCD. You can see that each letter is built up of individual pixels to form the letters. It was very common to see a character LCD, typically a 4x20, on early 3D printers. These character type LCDs are everywhere, and you can get them on Amazon pretty cheap. You can buy 4 of them for about $12. And if you shop around, you can get even better deals. And if you don't want any wires, you can get LCD shields that'll plug right into your Arduino already built. If you want even less connections, there's I2C modules that'll connect to the back of an LCD, and you can buy those on Amazon as well. Many of these have a PCF 8574 I2C chip on the back to communicate with your microcontroller. Many of them have a built-in dimmer, and the dimmer type will actually determine which type of module you've got when you're writing your code. A lot of this is built into Arduino or Arduino libraries that you have to install. But as I showed in a previous video, you can actually program Arduino with the basic language. GCBASIC is that compiler, and it's free and open source and has a lot of this stuff already built in to make it so easy to control an LCD character module. In the online manual for the GCBASIC, there's a whole section on character LCD modules, and there's a bunch of different methods that you can drive them, whether you want a direct drive with 4 wires, 8 wires, want to do the serial I2C, and there's code examples and all kinds of commands to make this thing easier to use. And all this is explained in the documentation, which is online, so you can go in and search it. But what I'm going to do is step you through a couple examples to show you how easy it is to use this. And I'm just going to use the sample programs, but you can then modify easily. And again, all this is free to you. There's no charge. There's no hidden subscription. Nothing. At the top of the program, you define how you're connected to the LCD. and also any of the pins on the Arduino, how they're connected to the LCD pins. A lot of this is already in example programs. And inside GCBASIC, there are many already pre-built commands for clearing the screen or locating a character to a certain spot, or even controlling the backlighting or creating custom characters of your own. So let me show you how you can do a hello world. And what I did is I took an LCD, just a plain one, and wired it through a demo shield that I plugged into an Arduino. So this took about 14 wires to do this. Almost all character LCDs have the same connections. Whether it's a 4x20 or 2x16, you can wire them all the same. In fact, an LCD shield that you can plug right into an Arduino uses the same connections. It's already built into the board. This is a DF Robot LCD keypad shield. It's got a 2x16 LCD character module and a bunch of switches to control it. So not only can you control the LCD, but you can control switches or read the switches from the Arduino. Let's look at an example program for the Arduino using the LCD. At the top, we have the chip defined as Mega 328P, which is used in the Arduino. And then there's the LCD parameters that I talked about that defines we're going to use a 4-wire connection. And then the connections, actual connections to the LCD are defined. And then here's the main program. You do loop. You clear the screen, you locate the first line, you print hello, you locate the second line, you print world, you wait a second, and you loop back and do it again. And I did it on both my wired version and on the LCD shield version. Now, as I mentioned, GCBASIC already has commands for controlling the LCD, a whole bunch of them. And they're all defined in the documentation or right there in the compiler itself. So you can look it up right in the compiler as you're using it. And they've got several examples included that they show you the full code. So I'm going to try the one out here. We're going to do the LCD demo example that's in the documentation. So here's the top of the program and explains what's going on. And you're going to see a lot of similarities. Same chip defined at the top, same LCD parameter and connections at the top. So we're driving it the same way with the same wires. So all the connections from there on are the same. So now we'll go into the main do loop and I'll show you some of these commands in action. So first we're going to just display something by using the print command. So start test display on is printed on a display. Then there's a cursor on using the LCD cursor command. And that produces a little line below the word cursor. Then we can turn that off, or the cursor off command. And that takes that little line off, so you control the cursor. Now there's also a flash on, and that flashes the whole block below the word flash, which you can turn off with the flash off command. So that, makes it blink or not blink. And then you can combine these to where I have a cursor so it's underlined while it's blinking, so you know there was something there. Or you can shut them both off with the LCD cursor flash off. So you have a lot of control with two different commands. And then you can make the whole display flash with another command. And then you can actually turn the whole display off for a little bit and turn it back on. And then it's going to end with the end test. So that's the whole demo, but it showed you a lot of the commands available in GCBASIC. Now let's look at this serial version where it's only 4 wires using that PCF 8574. There's actually a sample program. They call it number 10. And we're going to do the sample. It's basically the same sample program where it shows you all the commands, but we're controlling it with 4 wires, basically power, ground, and then the data and clock line for the PCF 8574. So it's written for this chip that you can pretty much buy these expanders or these serial adapters anywhere. So in the documentation, it explains all the different commands and setups. So if you want to understand the code, it's there. All the defines are a little different because you got to set this up for the I2C, which is going to communicate from the C4 and C5 pins of the Arduino. And so here's the example program. I'm going to basically just step through this quickly. And it just goes through the same thing where it's going to turn the cursor on, cursor off, flash. But there's a whole bunch of I2C at the beginning to get the communication set up. Now to get this to work, I actually had to build my own little wire harness. And then I had to add 2 4.7K resistor pull-ups from the clock and data line. That's how I2C works. So I did that crudely. And then I just connected the 4 wires to this little inland board that's on the back of the LCD. And then it just runs through the same program, but I'm only using 4 wires from the Arduino to do this. So if you had a small little microcontroller, you could easily control a display like this with only power, ground, and 2 I/O pins. So GCBASIC made this really easy to use. So if you're already familiar with Arduino, you know you can do similar kind of thing with the Arduino libraries and C code. But what I will say, if you're an older programmer like me or just new to this stuff, I think you'll find the GCBASIC commands much easier to understand, the code much easier. You don't have to deal with loading libraries. It's all built in. The documentation's really good, and right there you don't have to download something separate. So I find the GCBASIC is really, really easy to use and very helpful for beginners. And after all, BASIC is the beginner's all-purpose symbolic construction code, and GCBASIC tries to follow that same format and make it easy. What I like most about the GCBASIC compiler is I can program both AVR or the Arduino, but also PICkit microcontrollers like my CHIPINO. So I can go through 2 different microcontroller families and use the same code. In fact, this LCD thing, I could run it on the CHIPINO, totally different micro, but all I have to do is change like 3 lines. At the top, I define it to the PIC 16F886 and also 2 different connections on the board itself. Other than that, it's identical and runs. So that's the handiness of GCBASIC, of why I recommend it for people who are fooling around with different modules. And then I can actually program even smaller chips much easier. So 8-pin, 14-pin, 20-pin, all with the same compiler. So it's very, very handy for all types of projects. Now I know based on the comments, many have already checked out GCBASIC. And if there's a feature or a command you'd like me to use, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll make it a future video. And a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters who make all this possible. If you guys need anything, you know you can get a hold of me through Patreon. Thanks for watching. And if you like what I'm doing here, maybe check out some of the other videos popping up. If you want to help support the channel, Patreon's the best way to do it. And if nothing else, click on that CHEP logo and subscribe. I'll see you next time right here at Chuck Hullabuck's Electronic Products.